evening. I'm so excited to paint with you tonight. I hope you have been enjoying this whole series that we've had going on this week. I am going to put my painting lips on and we are going to get started. Hello, Natalie from Chicago. I hope you are well. Okay, I think I'm good. I am super happy to see you. Thank you, everybody who is here. Please drop a note to let me know that you're here so that I can see you. And also, if you could give me the thumbs up, I can't even tell you how much that helps with YouTube. Of course, if you aren't already a subscriber to my channel, subscribing helps me so much too. Those are two things that truly, it might not seem like much, but it really makes a big difference. And so I would be so appreciative of it. Tonight we have some fun projects to do. I've got a lovely and easy little warm-up exercise for us. We are going to dive into some stencil work tonight, as well as learn about some textures that we can create in our watercoloring. And I am really excited to share with you some of the texture ideas I have for you. And I am looking forward to seeing if you guys have any texture ideas yourselves. So I think it's going to be a good evening. We have been crazy busy around the Creativity Cave this week, getting packages boxed up. I believe I have 8 boxes of supplies left. We actually made up some more. We've sold out multiple times, but we have one final round left of boxes. So if you are interested in a supply box, and I can't recommend it enough, I have 8 left. So make sure to get registered if you're interested. There is a link for that in the description of this video, as well as links to some of the things that I'm talking about. Do I still have paint palettes? I do. However, they will not ship for about a week because of dry time. So yes, I do have paint palettes left. The Fall in Love with Watercolor palette, there is a color in here that is taking, I would say, an obnoxiously long time to dry. I don't know if you caught, I think it was in yesterday's video, I shared a little behind the scenes. We literally have created a heating cave to try and get the paint palettes to dry faster, and they're just taking forever. Most of the time, paint does not take this long to set up. So it's been, I'll just say, frustrating. So anyway, but we're working on it. So it will ship in a week, but I think and potentially sooner than that. So maybe like 5 days. I don't know. We'll see. It just kind of depends. But if you would like one, definitely order one, because I will probably just do one more round of the paint palettes as well. What else was I going to say? I also have stencils, and many of you have been interested in my mixing palette. I'm using it as a little bit of a drying rack right now, but I showcased the mixing palette, and yes, you can get that. There is a link in the description of this video, and I'm laughing because someone said something about I'm watching paint dry. It's so true. Oh my gosh. So true. It is painful watching paint dry because I just so desperately want to mail out the paint. And here's why we're not pushing it. I've had a couple people whose paint has leaked in their package, not outside of the palette, but it's messed up some of their other colors. And paint is just too expensive for me to risk that happening. So that's why we're trying to be really good. But someone's asking if I have the paint swatches listed somewhere. Yes, they're in the Facebook group. The first one is, I think I haven't put the second one in there, but I will. And what else? There was another question I saw in here. Da, da, da. Yes. Um, oh, there's something else I was going to just say, and I just lost my train of thought. It just poof out of my brain. So we'll see. I'm sure I will come up with it. So one of the things I had in the Facebook group today was a question of, or do you have questions for me? And there were a couple of questions that I will talk about. Also, we just have to take a second here. Did y'all watch Ice Dancing last night? Sorry, I have feelings about it. Okay. Let's see what else. Here we go. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted either. Oh, for goodness sakes. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting to my own group. That's how it goes sometimes. First of all, I've loved seeing all of the things that you've been sharing. Good for you guys. I love that. If you do have questions, by the way, please feel free to ask them in the Facebook group. So I would love to cover them. We are down to 2 more videos after tonight. And one is going to be a pre-recorded video that comes out tomorrow. And then I have rescheduled our final session for Sunday. I tentatively have it at 3 p.m., but I would just say watch carefully. Here's why. I'm driving to Nashville tomorrow morning. I am driving to Nashville to watch my son hopefully break 4 minutes in the mile at a track meet at, is it Villanova? Is that the college in Nashville? I don't know. It starts with a V. I don't know. I've got a hotel room. It's cool. It's good. It's all cool. Anyway, so he's running on Friday evening, and Vanderbilt. Thank you. Villanova. I don't know. That sounds like a basketball school. Can you tell I'm not a fan of that? Anyway, I am leaving in the morning, headed to watch him run, and I'm coming back after he runs at 4 p.m. on Saturday, which means I will not get home until late, or early Sunday. So just keep an eye out. I will drop an email. And if for some reason the video doesn't post as I'm planning for it to post tomorrow evening, just be patient with me and know that I'm either consoling my child or celebrating with my child, and that might have a reason for why things aren't getting posted. But anyway, I'm really excited. He has been working just insanely hard for like the last couple of years to get to this point. I just can't even comprehend what all goes into this. But anyway, so I'm very excited about it, and it's a big goal for him. So it should be good. Let's see, what else do I have to share with you? I think that's about it. Oh, I do have something else to tell you. I'm so sad. My sweet sister, her dog died yesterday. It was actually, I found out right before we went live. I had a live event last night for our Stamp Happy Academy. And so I was really sad because her sweet little dog, I mean, it was time because she's lived a life, and she was having, I don't know, she has a heart problem, but it just was sad because, you know, she lived a good long life. It was her time though. So it was good that it wasn't like a question, but it just is sad. And I felt bad because they decided, so her son and her ex-husband actually took the dog to the vet, and she couldn't get dressed and out, you know, in time because it's her doing anything is a whole thing. But so she wasn't there, and I totally can relate to that because we had to put our dog down on Christmas Day of 2020. And so I know they wouldn't let us come in. We could only have one person come in with our dog. And so my daughter went, and I was not happy to not be there for that. And ugh. So it's just sad, and I feel for her because, ugh. But anyway, it wasn't a surprise or anything. So I mean, she knew it was coming, but it was sad. I said to her, "You've had all of these wonderful times together with Lucy, hanging out in bed with you, keeping you company while you have been getting yourself recovered from your surgery." So yeah, it was my sister's dog that died. So at any rate, no fun. It's never fun to lose a pet. So. All right. So we had a couple questions. That was a really long segue into the questions we had in our Facebook group. So I had a couple questions about some basics, which I'll cover. And then another one was, when we stencil, are we learning to control stroke, stay in the lines, and what else? There's actually, it's a whole lot of things, and it's not necessarily any one thing, or it can be whatever you want it to be. One of the things I love about stencils is they are great for painting fun patterns or shapes that maybe you can't draw yourself or aren't patient enough to draw, especially on the bigger geometric shapes. I mean, they all can be made with like a compass and a ruler and a thing, protractor. I don't know. But they are not easy to make, so many of them, most of them. So it's for sure easy. It is a great way to warm up. It is great for learning what your brush can do for water control, for playing with color. And so there's a whole bunch of different things you can do with stencils. But my favorite thing is when I don't know what to paint, it's really fun to just pull out a stencil and go to town. So I love that part of it. Okay. And then we had some basic questions that I will go over again here as we get ready to paint. All right. Okay, just checking comments. All right. So, first off, oh, I have some tips. Okay. Well, I'm going to kind of go with my tips and my basics. So I'm going to flip my camera around and then we're going to get started. All right. Ooh, what is my favorite paper? That's a great question. The answer is it kind of depends, but generally speaking, there's a paper called Bao 100% cotton paper. It is a inexpensive version of the good paper. My second favorite paper is called Fabriano Artistico. It is a pretty expensive paper. And those are my two favorites. The most people consider Arches to be the best of the creme de la creme of paper. I am not a huge fan of Arches, actually. It is also very expensive. So, but I will tell you the most expensive paper is the paper you're not using. So anyway, all right. So I've got a few tips. Oh, but first I got to show you my cards. I will be completely honest, I'm not happy with how they turned out, but they're all right. So we made these cards yesterday, or these paintings yesterday in our video, and then I turned them into cards, and I took some gold and paint and stamped and heat embossed gold on the gold foil. This is the flower from our Fragrant Layers bundle. And then I die cut a gold kind of detail flower and placed it on top. And I just wasn't super happy with how this came out, but it's not bad. It just isn't great. This one I was a little happier with, but I will tell you, this is funny. I had embossed, and I think I must have thrown it away because I cut it off. I had embossed "So Happy for You" in gold right below because I left a space right there for the sentiment. And I hated how it turned out because this gold is so much brighter and a prettier looking gold, and I didn't like it. So instead I stamped it in black over the top of the painted section here and sliced off the embossed part. So anyway, I thought you guys might find that kind of humorous, if nothing else. But these are my 2 cards. They're not bad. They're just not my favorite. Okay, so a couple of basics. When you are getting ready to paint, you've got your paints out. You want to activate them. And activating paints means you're just literally going to spray a little water. So that's why you have this water spritzer. So I'm blocking my paper so I don't get water on that. So I'm just going to spritz this a little bit. You don't have to spritz it like a ton. You just want it to be moist on top. You're welcome for that. Okay, now there is one that does need more water and more time to activate, and that is metallic. So in our little gold paint that comes in that supply box that you got, you definitely want to hit that with a little bit extra water so you can see it's kind of flowing around in there. And then we want to let that sit for a little bit, and then we're also going to take our brush and allow it to like work it up into a lather, for lack of a better description. All right, another little suggestion or tip for you is your brushes. I think I told you I generally speaking do not use the water that comes in these. You can see this one's empty when I paint. I don't like the water in here only because I typically go through it really quickly and it's annoying to refill them. In addition, I feel like I have better control because when you squeeze these, you know, sometimes you get a lot of water that kind of comes out in a big blob like that. Sometimes not enough comes out and then you're squeezing hard and you're trying to get what you want out. So it's harder to control the right amount of water. So that's why I much prefer dipping my brushes into water. And you can see I've got this little, it's like a double-barreled ceramic bowl or cup of water, and this one's a little dirty, and can you tell I've been using gold? There's gold kind of settled at the bottom, which kind of cracks me up, but anyway. So I use this pretty regularly. Otherwise, two glass jars work great. If you have pets, or I should say if you have a cat, or I don't think other pets would walk around on your stamp table potentially, but a cat might. One, I wouldn't allow your cat to drink your water. Many paints are non-toxic, but some are not. And I would not risk my pet's life on trusting paint that comes from China, just saying. So I would not allow my cat to drink my dirty water, paint water, nor would I let my cat touch my paints or lick my paints. So keep that in mind. So if you do have a cat, I would recommend getting a container that has a lid on it if you're going to leave it on your table when you're not there. Just a little, now that is not something I've ever dealt with, but because I don't have a cat, but just keeping that out there. Can you combine a metallic with a color? Absolutely, because sparkly colors are better than regular colors. And actually, if you search for metallic paint, there's lots of colored metallic paint, and I'm not a fan of them. I would say, why wouldn't you just add some metallic to your regular paint colors that you already have? And that way everything coordinates. And you don't have to have separate of everything. So I think that's a really important one to keep in mind. The other suggestion I have for brushes. Now, again, these brushes are not, like top-notch quality at all. In fact, they're pretty basic, basic quality brushes. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're just not the best. They will not hold a good point for too long. So they're going to wear out somewhat quickly. I mean, I've had some for several years. It's not like they're going to fall apart, but the ones I use the most for painting are a little different type of brush that have a little nicer bristles. And I mentioned that for those of you who've got the PDF or the box, you will get a video that goes into quite a bit of detail with a lot of different supplies. But I'll explain more about brushes because there's just an insane number of brushes available out there. And I definitely want to help you get the best bang for your buck when shopping for brushes. Okay, how old are your... Oh, sorry. That is not a question for me. Okay. I do not get to watch very often, so I would like to ask what paints are being used. Sharon, the first video in this session, I go through all of them one by one, and there's actually a multiple different companies, but my favorite brand overall is Daniel Smith. The other thing you want to do with your brushes is let them dry flat like this. That way the bristles will dry out, and you definitely never, ever, ever, ever want to leave them in your water jar. So I don't ever, ever, ever want you doing that. That is a big fat no-no, and here's why. First off, if you have a real brush, as in not one of these water brushes, there is typically a metal, what's called a ferrule, and then like the brush handle, and that is holding the bristles in with glue and tension, and letting water soak up into that is going to ruin your brush really quickly. It will also bend the bristles of your brush, and they may not come back. So definitely never, ever, ever, ever do that. Now, if you've ever painted like acrylic paints, you always want to put your brush in the water because otherwise that acrylic paint will ruin your brush. So that's a big difference if you are a avid acrylic painter and you're coming to watercolor. If you've never painted watercolor, then just don't start that bad habit. It's a really bad one. Okay. The other thing that I get asked the most often is, how do you know how much paint and how much water you need? And the annoying answer is it just takes time and experience to figure that out. Truly, it depends on what you're doing, but the best thing I can tell you is to just paint. The more you paint, the easier it is. You're going to figure out what is a good amount for what you're doing and for what you need, and you will learn along the way how to control that. Okay. Oh, one more question. Now, I know I said don't leave this open if you have a cat, but when you are done with a painting session, it is best to leave your paints open to dry because they actually can get moldy. I've never experienced that in all of my time painting, but if you close up this wet palette and leave wet paint in there, it actually can mold. Most paint manufacturers have something in the paint to keep that from happening, but it can happen. So just be aware of that. That's especially true if you live in a really humid area. Oh, and then my last tip is with paper. Now, we know this a little bit from being just card makers, but you have oils in your hands, and when you touch your paper, you leave oils behind. You can actually see fingerprints in paper sometimes when you paint over it. So you don't ever want to like lotion up your hands and then go to paint something, because you will probably have way too much oil in your fingertips that will end up on the paper, and so that is no good. So those are just a few tips for you. So I think what we should do now is put into a practice some of these tips that we've been working on. So I'm going to grab my sketchbook. If you have been watching, we've been working in our sketchbook a little bit each day, and I love doing that because it helps me see the progress that I'm making while I'm painting, and it also lets me keep notes on what I, try in my sketchbook, what I like, what I don't like, and what I might come back to, or remind remind myself of something cool I did that I want to do again. Okay. Sorry, speaking of, I had to grab my sketchbook because I have another sketchbook that I did a really cool warm-up exercise in that I wanted to do with you today. And I will show you my original and you can tell me what you think. So you can do this with literally any brush, but I'm going to take my medium-sized brush. And I spritzed my paint, so they should be ready to go, although I talked for a pretty good amount of time, so we'll see. But what I want to do is take and pick up some paint. And whenever I'm working with my paint, it is best to like swirl it in either the lid of my palette or in my palette, mixing palette. So this is that mixing palette. Still haven't cleaned it. So we'll use this tonight. And then I can add a little water to this, a little bit more paint. And this really is a handy tool to have. And I like that it's got all these individual wells in it so that I can continue to paint and not let my colors bleed into one another. But you also, of course, have your handy dandy plate, which also is a great place to swirl your paint around. Now, a couple of reasons why we do this. First of all, you can control how much water and pigment you have in your bristles a lot easier when you're swirling it around on a plate versus if you're just swirling it around in the well, the paint itself. Because this is very concentrated pigment, obviously, and you don't know how much is on your brush. So when you swirl it around, on your plate or your mixing palette or the lid of your palette, all of those places are going to allow you to kind of see how much you've got in there. And then you can adjust it by dipping in and adding water to it. So now I'm going to add some water to this. I've got a really watery mix. Here I've got a little bit more pigment. But anyway you slice it, that is the best way to go about it. Sometimes it's hard to remember that, and don't stress. It's a really good idea. Additionally, if you want to mix colors together, you obviously should not do that in the paint. You should do it somewhere else because you don't want to contaminate your paints. All right, so this is a really simple warm-up exercise, and all I'm going to do is draw some lines. I kind of want these to be like just lines with maybe a couple inches long and nice, relatively neat ends, meaning they're not jagged so much. So I might, clean them up so they don't look terrible. Okay, so while we're doing this, and I want some with more pigment, some with less pigment, and whatnot. And I'm just kind of randomly doing them all over the place like that. Okay. And I might come back to this color, but for now I'm going to change my color by rinsing my brush. I'm kind of tapping it on the side of this water well. And I'm doing a horrible job of illustrating this, but the idea is you clean your brush on one side and then you have clean water on the other side. Eventually they both end up getting dirty, but sometimes it's nice to have clean water for, whatever you're doing next in your painting. Okay, I'm going to switch colors. So I started with my vermilion. Now I'm going to go to my quinacridone red, and I'll put that in a nice empty spot over on my mixing palette just because I have it handy here. And then I'm going to kind of repeat the same process. And what I love about this color especially is it gives you a pretty nice range of values. And a different value of a paint is simply one with more water or less water. So a lighter value has more water, a darker value has more pigment. And then we'll add water to this, and this really will give us a nice range. This is the color, if you took my fall watercolor retreat, this one's the one that kind of reminds me of Rose D'Or. which is actually one of my favorite colors. And the idea is that these are all roughly the same size, but we're not doing measurements or anything. So if they're not, who cares? And again, this is a warm-up activity in our sketchbook. So again, who cares? But you can see I've got this kind of lighter value compared to that one, and it just is pretty. It's a nice soft pink that I'm getting from a color called quinacridone red. So that's always surprising. And I don't know if we talked about this, but here's a little fun fact. The color quinacridone, it's mostly reds and golden yellowy colors. So there's like quinacridone, magenta, red, violet, lilac. There's a whole bunch of different names that have quinacridone in them. They are pigments that were manufactured for car paint. So I always think that's kind of a fun fact. They are not naturally occurring pigments, you know, like from a mineral. They are actually synthetically created for car paint. And they stopped making the one that does gold because I guess it's just not a color they need in car paint anymore. And so some paint manufacturers don't have that color anymore because of that. But Daniel Smith, the color or the brand that I love the most, they bought, I guess, a lot, enough for what they thought their needs would be. Okay, so now I'm going to take Magenta Rose, and this is probably considered a quinacridone color, to be honest. I would have to look up what the pigment is, but I suspect it is the same thing. And there we go. So beautiful. Now, I just want you to know we're going to put gold on this. Okay, so here's a good example. I'm going to paint this a little bit further, but right now there's like a pool of water and pigment right there. Can you see that? If I tip this, it's going to flow down in that area. That means I have too much water. Okay, so let me do another one. Now this one, you can see the edges of my brush are kind of sketchy and that, or jagged, I guess. And that means I don't have quite enough water. So we're going to add some more to it. Just go over it again. All right. And then we can come back here and sort of soak up some of that excess paint so that it doesn't leave like a weird bloom. Now, sometimes those jagged areas come because your paper has texture in it. Sometimes they come just because your paintbrush is dry. It kind of depends. So just look at what you've got going on and you should be able to tell pretty easy. But we're just going to continue with our little lines. And I just love this. Like right there, you can see I'm definitely running out of paint. There's all kinds of kind of jaggedy areas that aren't completely covered. So I'm just going to go over this several times and then I'm going to reload my brush. Okay. By the way, I don't typically paint on top of my palette, my mixing palette. It's just that everything is dry except for the ones I'm using, so it works for tonight. Okay, and I'm trying to relatively evenly distribute these lines, and I'm doing an okay but not great job of trying to get them all even. I'm going to take this one step further. For those of you who've been around, if you have a filbert brush, those of you who are familiar with painting, like you've taken my other events, a filbert brush is great for this because it's going to just give you a nice shape to this exercise. So I'm just throwing that out there. Those of you who are new, don't worry about that. Though I will cover it in my brush discussion. Okay, so I like the look of this, but I want one more kind of warmer looking color. So I'm going to take my shell pink because I just love that darn shell pink. It's a good color. And I'm going to overlap these a little bit and not worry too much about it. When I overlap them, though, I like to kind of overlap them not exactly, meaning I'm not going to put two right next to each other. I want to have one a little higher than the other. But what you can see is because watercolor is transparent, you can see kind of where those colors overlap, and it kind of creates another area, another colored area that is kind of cool. Okay. And if your paint is still wet, what happens is it's just going to blend with that previous color in this case, rather than show that overlapped area. So this just kind of blended together. It's not super wet, but it was a little wet. And that's why that looks a little different than the others that I've done. Sometimes when you overlap one color, you can reactivate the color you're putting it over. So just be aware of that. It's all an experiment. So just have fun, play around and see what happens. I was trying not to touch that one because I knew it was still wet. We talked about when watercolors touch, they can kiss and then create blooms between one another, and that is fun and desirable and great sometimes, but you might not want it other times, so it just kind of depends. All right, so I picked up a little more color, put it in there. Okay, so I think we're good. We're gonna let this dry, and then we'll add some gold to it in just a minute. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna do, I mentioned we were gonna do some textures. So we've kind of warmed up our brush. We're getting ready here. I've got this heart that I die cut out of probably my Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And what I want to do is take my brush and do something called glazing. So I want to choose a color that I like. And I think for this one, I'm going to do Mineral Violet because it's just a really nice, beautiful color, and you can get a decent range with this. So you can see I'm kind of lathering this up with my brush really well. I want a lot of this paint. So I'm going to throw it over here in kind of in the middle of my palette. I'm going to get a lot of paint, and now what I want is a really watery mixture of it. So I'm going to put a fair amount of water. In fact, I probably will do 2 wells worth of this because I want to start out pretty light for this technique. Okay, so I've got a nice light value. If you're not sure if it's light or not, all you got to do is grab a scrap of paper. We used this one the other night, actually, and just test it. And that looks pretty light, especially if I compare it to my swatch chart, which you can see is quite a bit darker. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to start off by painting the whole thing. And just because it's going to get messy, I'm putting my silicone craft mat down just to cover my space so I don't get stuff all over it. Okay, and I want to color the whole shebang. Okay. And this is one of those things that I continue to do. I've done this in many of the classes I've offered, but I continue to do it because it's not my strong suit and I want to get better at it. You'll see what I mean. Not that glazing isn't, but this particular technique is not my strong suit. Okay. So I've got a fairly even coverage of this right now. These little dots on the side can kind of affect things a little bit. So just make sure you've got them covered because sometimes they're easy to miss. Okay, so that looks good. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're gonna let that sit and dry for a minute. We're gonna probably come back to this multiple times tonight. So I'm gonna set that aside. Then what I'm going to do, I'm cleaning off my brush, but I'm just going to leave this paint here. We'll come back to it. And then what we're going to do is see if we are ready for some gold. I think we are just about. So I'm going to move this over. Heat my wet spots with a little heat gun to dry them out. The reason I want them dry is I just don't want the gold to spread through the paint that's already painted. I want it to be its own little strip. And we should be good. You can see that was too watery because it bled all over the place and looks kind of crummy. But like those look good. Okay. All right. Now, where's my brush? I want to use the same brush I was using. We activated our gold. Oh goodness, look at that glorious gold. Because I let that water sit in there and give it some time to get activated. It looks fantastic. And then we're just going to do the same thing we did before. In fact, I'm going to add a little more water so that it's not quite so thick. And just do some of those same exact lines, but with our gold paint. And again, I'm not doing a great job of this, but not terrible. It's just a practice warm-up exercise, but I think it looks cool. And what's neat about all of these little warm-up exercises is when you do them on a regular piece of paper, you can turn them into cards. They make great backgrounds. If you want to add like a die cut leaf or flower design or simply a sentiment over the top of this neat background, it just makes a wonderful, easy card that looks super cool. So that is all kinds of fun. Just a couple more. And I'm going to call this good. And then I'm going to show you the one that I did previous to this. Now I am scraping off the excess paint back in here because, I mean, it's gold paint. We want to keep it. And then I'll rinse my brush off really well. And part of why you want to rinse your brush off is because if you don't, you could put gold in your paint palette, and you don't want to do that unless you want to do that. But in that case, I would definitely recommend you mix the color first somewhere else, your dish or your palette or wherever, your mixing palette, so that you can avoid getting things contaminated. Okay, so here is the one I did, and I'm just super sad because I got it dirty, but I think this one looks really fun. So isn't that cute? Okay, so I talked about doing textures. So the first texture we started with is the heart. It's going to come and go several times. The next thing you can do is set up in your sketchbook. I'm going to start on this page, and then I think we'll continue for the next couple pages. For this, what I want to do is actually take and kind of grid off my sketchbook a little bit. So I'm going to take some of my Scotch tape, and I'm going to put this down. I'm just going to put it at the bottom, and I will divide it down the middle. Okay, and what this does is it gives me a nice separation between the two different sections, or well, I've got two on here. And then by taping off the bottom, I'll have some room to write what these are. Okay, now there's lots of ways you can add texture to your paper, and I've got some favorite ways. The first thing I'm going to do is and for this exercise, we want a darker color. So I think I'm going to do this well, we can change colors, but this Theo Indigo Violet. And I'm going to color, you know what, I don't even need this whole space because this will get kind of lengthy but I'm just going to put some paint down. Again, it doesn't have to be the whole area here. But I want a decent amount on here, and I want it to be wet, but not drippy wet for this first one. Okay, so I've got a fairly even paint layer on my paper. Then what I'm going to do is clean my brush off. I'm going to rinse it off really good. And then I'm using, we're going to call this clean water. It's not, but actually I'm going to go down a brush size too. And I'm going to take this other one because that brush is kind of my old crummy one. Okay, so now I've went to my smaller brush size, and what I'm going to do is just touch water in here, and this is not working very well. Touch water. There we go. And look at that. So you want a good amount of water on your brush tip, and then you're going to go straight up and down and touch. That was a really big drop. That happened. But there's a smaller one. And these just create neat little patterns in your painting. I will tell you that this technique works the best on paper that is not cotton, which is what your sketchbook is. So it works really well on the cheap paper, but look at how fun that is. Laura says, can you put too much water in the gold? Yes, you absolutely can. I didn't want to remove the water taking the paint with. Yeah, Laura, it's just kind of a feeling you'll get with more practice. If it's too watery, your gold won't be opaque. If it's not watery enough, it will be really thick in your brush and you'll have trouble painting with it. So again, it's just one of those experience things, but you'll pick it up pretty quick, I think, once you start using it. They look almost like snowflakes. Yes, they do, or like ice crystals for sure. Okay, so we'll let that one dry. We're going to do up another one. This one is a really interesting one. And many of you have probably seen this before. I've done videos on my regular YouTube channel with this before, but I love it. And it's always a crowd pleaser, if you ask me. So again, I'm doing a little smaller area. I'll make it about the same size, sorry. And so again, we want a decently pigmented area on here. Okay, we want it to be relatively wet, not drippy wet, but wet. And I know you're all like, well, how wet is that, Dina? Just a little practice, you'll get there. Okay, and for this, we're going to take some salt and add it. My favorite salt is Morton's coarse kosher salt. Okay, and this is a box of salt I've had for like 20 years, like literally. A really long time, because of course one doesn't use a lot of salt in their crafting. And you'd be right, it's not terribly often. So I'm just sprinkling it on here. Now, can you use other types of salt, such as sea salt? That is my second favorite. Table salt, Himalayan salt. What other kind of salts are there? Any kind of salt you can think of, yes, you can use it. But my favorite brand and type of salt is coarse kosher salt from Morton's. I don't know what it is. It just works amazing. Now, one thing I've found with this is you definitely need to play with how much pigment you have, how much water you have, and what paper you have. Okay, so as this dries, you're going to see what it looks like, and you don't want to take any salt away from this until it has completely dried. Otherwise, it might not look the way you want it to look. Now, having said that, I'm going to grab something to show you what the best thing is for this. Oh, I have one I did the other day. Sorry, I had to grab it from my table, but before I show this to you, and it's pretty spectacular, if I can just say, I want to try another piece just so you can see the difference using my Fluid 100 paper. So I'm just going to grab a sheet out of here because this is the higher quality paper. This is cotton paper. This is wood pulp paper, like cardstock type paper. So there is a difference. But this is kind of like a magic technique because it literally, the process kind of reveals itself as it dries. I'm just looking for my wash brush so I can get the water on here a little faster. So I'm going to just paint a section of this again, real quick. And if you've ever played with this technique, it's just so dang fun, in my humble opinion. Okay, so we'll put lots of pigment on here. I also think that some pigments work better than others. It kind of just depends. You got to practice. Not all colors are going to make amazing salt backgrounds, but man, when they do, they do. Whew. Okay. So I've got this on here pretty well. Now I'm looking at this. It's not super wet, so I think it's the right amount of water. Sorry, just stepping behind me because now I have all natural sea salt, again, coarse. And I'm just going to sprinkle that on here as well. Okay, and if you look at this, I can already see it starting to happen. But let's do another one right next to this one. I'm going to use the same color. I'm going to get the water on here quick with my wash brush to help this. And I'm going to do this a lot waterier so you can see. So when I say waterier, I mean like if I were to tip my paper, water would run. It would move. If I tipped that one, it wouldn't move anywhere. It's going to stay put because there's not enough for it to go anywhere. Okay, so I've kind of dumped a fair amount of water. Now keep in mind, cotton paper, one of the things with cotton paper is that it water absorbs into it. It's built to handle a lot of water. And wood pulp paper, the pigment kind of sits on top of it. So it's a little different how it works. Okay, but you can see this is pretty wet. Even dripping a little more water in here. And then we're gonna do our same salt. Okay, and you can already see things are happening. All right, I'm gonna let these set aside. So just, I'm gonna put my pencil so he can remember. Lots of water. That's the really watery side. Okay, now let me show you what it looks like when it's dry. This is a piece that I did. Let me bring up my camera. So if you got a supply box, there was a tag on your little bag of goodies, and it had a tag that we made from a big piece of paper that I painted with a few different colors. And then I sprinkled salt over the top and we let it dry. And this is what it looks like when it dries. It's really quite phenomenal, isn't it? Let me show you another piece. I actually have a couple more pieces. This piece right here is going to look somewhat similar. This piece is the bulk watercolor paper in your packets. So it's not quite as nice a quality of paper, but on here I was using a couple of colors that actually are made of more than one pigment. So when the separation happens, you can see two different colors. So like there's purple in the background, there's a little bit of pink in here, and then there's blue inside the salt areas. So I think that's kind of cool. And then this one was another one I did, and I can't remember anymore if this was like, I feel like this one was not very watery. I can't remember. So anyway, salt is a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. And of course, you know, you can die cut these or cut them up and have them as backgrounds. There's all kinds of things you can do that are really fun with that. Let's check in on our other pieces. So we've got this piece is pretty much dried, and that looks really cool. And then our salt is drying. Now here's the difference. They do have similar appearances, but salt, you can sort of control where you're going, but not really. You know, the salt kind of falls where it falls, right? Over here, the water dots that I added were very deliberate. I could control exactly where I was putting them. This one obviously was bigger than I intended, but other than that, I could stick those dots exactly where I wanted them. So you get a similar effect, but this one is much more controllable, but this one can be much more intense, I guess, too. So there's kind of both sides to it. Okay. We're going to come back and see the final results once everything is dried on all of the different things we painted. But now it's time to come back to our heart. So we want this to be completely dry. And I still feel like there's just a little more moisture. And like I said, this is the kind of process that takes a while. So we're going to just heat it. And sometimes I heat the back side of paper because it is thicker, and as mentioned, the water does soak through. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush off because we're going to come back to the paint we had in our palette over here to do some glazing. And glazing is literally just taking and putting a little bit of paint on an area and then layering it up. Okay, so I'm going to create kind of a little wave. Like, remember how we painted that wave on our in our sketchbooks? I think that was the first night actually, but we did lines. Instead of different lines, what we're going to do is do a wave and then paint the remainder on down, from the wave line on down. And then we're going to get a really cool background. And I'm running out of paint a little bit, so I'm kind of re-upping it. Again, it's not critical if it's perfect, but you can see there is our first glaze layer. We will come back to this one. Okay. I bet you never thought you would have the need for different types of salt in your stamp room or your crafting area, but here we are. Okay. This is still not quite dry, so what I'm going to do is sort of flip my page but not press on that one. We'll come back to this side of my sketchbook and we're going to work on this side for right now. So I'm going to put another piece of tape at the bottom. Again, this is just to mark off the area so I can talk about what is happening in the part that we're painting, and then we'll just divide it in half with another piece of tape. Okay, let me look at my list of textures. Oh, right. So this is a good one. There are lots of things that you can find in and around your home for glazing, or I'm sorry, not glazing, for adding texture. Okay, so I've got a couple things right here. So we're gonna kind of add, I like to put water down because it just helps everything blend quicker. First, we're gonna stick with that same color. Well, I guess we don't have to. We could, here, let's mix it up. This is a good one for mixing up colors because it's not as critical. Okay, so I've got a good amount of paint. I've got some different colors in here. They're mixing, they're matching, they're great. They're wet, but not drippy. And now what I'm going to do is take, and actually the vast majority of you should have some of this in your packet. I'm going to take some bubble wrap and just place that on top here. And I kind of want this to sort of stay in place and not move. So I'm actually going to stick my tape dispenser over the top. All right, let's do something with this other one. So we'll add some water. It's really fun to kind of look around your home and see what you've got that you can use. So another thing you might have at your house is this is a grapefruit bag, and on the back of it is kind of a meshy type pattern. So we're going to take and put that down on top of our paint. I'm going to use my peacock green here because this is a glorious color and we should for sure do something fun with this, right? Okay, so I spread my paint around. You might want to take like a book or something and set it on top, or just, you know, let it sit. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to kind of fold this so that I can place it on top like that. And I'm just going to sit here and press it for a second. I'm like looking around my desk. What do I have? I guess I could take this, close this up, and set it on top. You just don't want to move it around, you know? Okay, so I'm going to move my sketchbook out of the way because we are going to change up what we're doing while we're waiting for this stuff to dry. Okay, so I'm going to come back and we're going to work on another project now. So we will definitely come back to those and do some more things because I've got some more fun things for you to try out. But what I want to do right now is I've taken a piece of my bulk sketch watercolor paper, and we are going to take our heart stencil and do some fun things with that. So in yesterday's video, you saw how I used the stencil. We traced the whole thing in our sketchbook and painted each section a different color, and that is a wonderful thing, and I've been doing it multiple times and having the best time with it. This time, what we're going to do is we're going to trace this stencil like so. And then I'm going to use just the heart shape. I'm not going to worry about the remainder of the stencil. And I have been having a really good time with this process. You can do this one of two ways. I would encourage you to try it the way I'm going to show you, but I'm going to give you a like infinitely easier way to do it too. So take whatever brush you're comfortable with. It does not matter. You're going to work with a few different colors, so you can kind of either choose a color scheme in your mind, or you can just go with whatever you want to go with. But we're going to take and... Where's my paper towel? I always have paper towel. It's usually not clean, but I always have it. Ooh, but where did it go? Ah. Okay. So, by the way, this one got me real excited about this stencil when I was playing around with this idea in getting prepared for this week. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take my water brush, and I'm going to choose a few different colors. And when I'm choosing colors of paint to use, you've probably seen me do this. I like to kind of make like a little cheat sheet almost. So I'm going to do Quin Red as one color. Probably Permanent Rose as another color, and then maybe Vermilion. You can add another color later if you want, but those are going to be my focus colors. Of course, we're going to add gold to this too. Don't worry. Don't you worry. I would not let you down like that. Okay, so actually I want to use my plate for this because that is good. I just want to arrange things so that you can see all that I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and this is a really wonderful way to practice control of your brush, your water, your pigment, and whatnot. We're just going to do some circles. You can see I'm going kind of above and below the line I drew. And so I'm literally just painting dots. Little dots. There, I would say these are about 1/4 of an inch in diameter. But in this case, size does not matter. You want to keep them similar in size, but if they're not exactly, it's not a huge deal. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and do a bunch of dots. And so one of the things that I hope you're seeing tonight is that I often work on multiple projects at once. So it's pretty rare that I'm doing just one project at any one time. I usually have something going because, as we pointed out earlier, I am often in my life waiting for paint to dry, not just in paint palettes, but also on paper. And it really helps to be patient. And the easiest way to be patient is when you have multiple projects going on at once. Okay, now these are all pretty similar in value. They're about the same amount of water and pigment. We'll probably come around and do a lighter value here in a little bit, but I'm going to do my next color, which in this case is Quin Red. So I'll mix some of that up on my palette, scrape off the side so I don't get too much, and then start painting. I actually can tell you that right now, almost every single one of these dots has too much water on it. It is what it is. The less water you use, especially in something like this, the faster it dries, I might add. So that's a good reason to kind of try and keep it in check. And if you have too much water, you can get rid of it. Just thirsty brush up that excess. And again, a thirsty brush is when I take my brush, I kind of wipe it off on my paper towel, and then I soak up the excess water in my painting. So I just did that to a whole bunch of these, and that paint came off. And now these are going to dry a lot faster, and they're going to look a little bit nicer too. Okay, so I'll come back to my paint. Notice I'm scraping off that excess paint and water because I don't want too much on here. And I'm just going to go around and around and just randomly put these little dots on here. And I find this very meditative and relaxing to do. So it's just a great way to kind of paint something abstract. There's actually lots of artists out there who used this kind of technique. This is probably not exactly this, but there's a very famous painting. It was actually in Ferris Bueller's Day Off at the Chicago Institute of Art. And I've seen this painting in person, not for many, many years, but it's by, I want to say Surratt is his name. and he was an impressionist, and he literally painted pictures in dots of color. And obviously that's not exactly what we're doing here, but it's kind of the same concept. I remember that all the way back from my 8th grade, or maybe it was 9th grade, junior high art trip, where I grew up in a suburb of Minneapolis, and we took Amtrak all the way to Chicago. And boy, was that an experience as a young kid. I thought it was so cool. And then let's see, what was our other color? Oh yeah, permanent rose. And do I have a section of permanent rose on here? Not really. We're going to make one. And it was quite an experience. Just taking the train someplace, no parents. Very fun. Lucky to do, I remember we had to like fundraise so we could go on this trip. And then I'll never forget too, this is really funny. When we were there, our teachers, and like, I mean, how many years ago was this, you guys? Like 40, 30 some for me. And I remember our teachers, two art teachers, who, by the way, I am pretty sure were smoking pot in their hotel room on this trip with us, but that's another story. But I am pretty sure that I remember them saying, don't buy anything in Chicago that you can get at home because the tax rate is just astronomical in the city. And I was like, oh, that's good advice. Like, can you believe I can remember this 30 some years later? I think that's very funny. Like, wow, they were really helping us out by telling us that. But it was a very fun trip that I still remember to this day. I was laughing over Christmas break. My kids thought it was really fun to pull out our album. Like they found an album like from when I was in college, and they found another album of my family, like when I was really, really little and my sister was really young, and they were, I think Carl was actually the one who did this. And so then they're like going, oh my gosh, look at you when you were little. And they're kind of making fun of me. And because, you know, I did live through a time where big hair was a thing. Anyway, it was kind of funny to see them look at this and look at what's happening here. Isn't that kind of fun? So I feel like we need a nice contrasty color in here. So I think I'm going to do my magenta rose, because gosh darn it, that color rocks. You just can't go wrong. Oh my gosh, 10.5%. Natalie! That is wild. Okay, so now I've kind of got a darker color here. And again, I'm being a little careful because I don't want my colors to run into one another. I want them to be individual dots, not blobs that run into one another. So if the dot next to it is wet, I'm going to probably avoid it because I don't want it to bleed. And you can kind of keep doing this as long as you want. It's also fun to come back with lighter values of some of the colors you've used, like much lighter, because that adds a nice dimension to it as well. But look at how fun this is. I'm sure at first you were like, what are you doing and why are you taking so much time to do it? But it really is a cool technique. And I love the heart because it's a fun shape and it's easy, you know, to do. It's not complicated like a star, for instance, or, you know, like a flower. That would be definitely much more difficult to maintain the shape and still be able to easily see what it is, right? With your dots. Okay. So we're getting there. But what's kind of fun is you can just kind of keep going with this and just spin it around and see what you get. Ooh, Dodie says 6% here and no state income tax. Well, I love that you're bragging, Missy. You got the nice weather. You got the nice tax rates. Dodie, when was the last time you went to the beach? You're not taking advantage of that, are you? You gotta go to the beach. If I was in Florida right now, I'd be at the beach. Also, speaking of, Dodie, you have access to salt water readily available, ready to go. You should try painting with salt water and see what happens. That could be interesting. I've heard you can do that. I've never tried it. Last time I painted near salt water, I was on a cruise ship, so it was kind of frowned upon to pick any salt water up, you know, from however many stories up we were. But maybe I can get a cup of salt water. I don't know if they'll let me bring it back on. Like, oh, no, this is just regular water. We'll see. I'm curious what would happen and like what things would look like. I suppose it depends on how salty the water is too, of course, but anyway, so as you can see, I'm filling this out. It looks pretty good. We're gonna let it dry and see what it looks like. Now, somebody guessed my my trick. Would a Q-tip give the same effect? And the answer is mostly. So let me grab my Q-tips. They're just over here, out of reach. So a couple things happen when you use a Q-tip. First of all, they kind of wear out, if you will, because you end up soaking, you know, you get so much water and pigment in the Q-tip that it's a little tricky, but it does work. You just kind of have to watch so that your Q-tip doesn't get fat. But you will find that, oh yes, it does work and it can be really quick. Like so. I actually really like the meditation of actually doing this. Plus, you can control the pigment and water far better. And then you get a smaller size too. But yes, this does go pretty quick. So I'm starting with my same vermilion. Okay, then I'm going to switch to another color, which was Quin Red. And sometimes these can get a little wonky too, so you just have to watch. So if you're in a hurry, this is great. This also does soak up a fair amount of water and pigment, so it's like I'm using a lot just to get this on here, but they don't come out anywhere near as dark, right? Because the Q-tip is soaking up that water and everything. But yes, it does work. And I know some of you just don't have the patience or whatnot to do this, but I encourage you to try doing this once. Also, don't drip on your paper like I just did. Okay, more of this color. Now you can for sure do this with ink, but like our paint, you don't want to pull this right off the ink pad. You want to go either put reinkers in the lid of your pad or, you know, put it on something so that you can kind of mix it up. You don't want to put Q-tip directly to your ink pad because you'll get cotton in there. It might not be real good for your ink pad at all, but it will work with reinker for sure. Okay, can I hold that closer to the camera? Yes, ma'am. Let's take it down, shall we? Okay, so now I'm gonna grab another Q-tip. So you kind of want to use a different Q-tip for each color, or a different end of Q-tip for each color. But you can see you don't get the vibrant colors that you do when you're painting them. But it does look pretty cool. If it's this or nothing, definitely use your Q-tip. Another thing I did, well, actually, I've got a couple of examples to show you. I was having myself a time with this little technique. And I did several different versions of it, which I will share with you. And I think we'll probably have a bonus lesson with another version of this type of thing. But that's getting pretty good. So you can see there's definitely a difference between the two, but very fun. Okay. Now, this one is for sure dry, so let's do some gold with this. Also, be careful, because if you go to the other end and you've got this end is soaked, you'll get paint all over yourself, just so we're clear. All right, so cleaning off my brush, pretty good. And I am going to go into my gold paint. So we'll mix that up, scrape off the edge. I know I've got a bunch of water here, so let's just kind of mix that in again. And we're going to add some gold all over, and it's going to be glorious. And you can put as many of these gold dots on here as you want. I kind of like them to fill up any holes I might have that I want to cover, or weird blotchy areas I want to clean up, whatever. And by the way, I could have gone through here one more time with like lighter values of some colors and just tweaked it a little bit, but you can kind of do however little or a lot of this as you want. It's no rules, just fun, fun, fun. And definitely vary where you're placing them, because you don't want them to be too uniform, you know, like dot, 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 dot in a row. You want to mix it up for a nice random placement of your dots. And again, it's really a great way to fill in kind of weird spots where, like right here, there's all this open space. So we can fill that with some gold dots. And again, if I needed to add some more painted dots on here of other colors, I can easily do that. But there we go. How awesome is this? Oh, I just love it. So, so fun. Georgia says the cotton on medical Q-tips are wound a bit tighter, so they might work a bit better than a brush. Yes, that's true. I don't have access to that, but you sure could do that too. Mary says a new pencil eraser would probably be too big, right? Yeah, it's definitely bigger than what we're doing. But that is going to be a lot like stamping too, which, you know, like the Q-tip is more like a different type of brush, whereas that is a little bit more like stamping. I haven't tried it, so I'm not sure how it will work, but yeah, you could definitely use that. There are actually, if you go on Amazon, there are actually like a bajillion sizes of Q-tips out there. Like they come this, like the poof on the end is real big. So you can get different sized ones. They're definitely more expensive, but it's kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to set that aside to let it dry, rinse off my brush, and then we are going to do the same thing with our Q-tip in our gold. and add more dots to this. Now, I will tell you, you need to dip this in some water first to get it to kind of work. And you need to watch because you saw like that can happen. So just be careful. And you almost have to kind of do a little wiggle for the paint to come off of this with the gold and the Q-tip. I don't know why. But as you can see, it does work. But it can, like, sometimes you have to rein in that cotton on your Q-tip. Make sure it's not getting too crazy. And I don't know why it seems to do that more with the gold paint for whatever reason than with just the regular watercolor paint. I don't know why that is. Maybe because it's thicker. Who knows? But it definitely works. And it's very fun. Now, if you want a smaller size dot, and you can see I'm getting paint on my finger from this, there's actually another thing you can do with a Q-tip, and I did do this. And that is you can literally, and sometimes it helps to have a scissors. I'm going to pull my camera up a little bit. You can literally pull off or pull back the Q-tip. I don't like cutting or breaking the Q-tip to just like go in the middle because that will alter the nice round circle that you have. But when you get rid of some of the cotton on here carefully, you end up with, here we go, this very nice, very round little, this is probably like 1/8 of an inch, maybe even a little smaller than that, dot. And you can do the same thing with this. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like, because I did that. Okay, and it looks like, oh no, I did it, but I must not have done it in the sketchbook. Ooh, where is it then? Ruh-roh. It's not in the sketchbook that I thought it was in. Maybe it is. Let me double check. One more check. I could have swore I did it in this one, but I didn't. Why did I do it? Sorry, you're having to listen to this conversation I'm having with myself about where I did this. Oh, it's not there either. Oh, maybe it's in my first sketchbook, but I didn't think it was. Oh, goodness. Sometimes I wonder about myself. Gosh, where did I do it then? Because I didn't think it was in a big sketchbook. Oh, here it is. Okay. So here is this is what I did to dab all of these dots. You can see they weren't filled in quite as full. And then I did that, and that made me really mad, but it is what it is. This did take a hot second to do. Okay, so I did 4 colors on this one: magenta rose, cobalt violet, light hue, Theo indigo, violet, and mineral violet plus gold. All right. Also, I did this, which is basically the reverse of this. So instead of going around the outside edge, I filled this in with dots as I went, and they were all about the same color. What I did is I kind of started with some yellow ones up here, let them dry, added in with my next color, which is vermilion, let it dry, and continued on and on. This was one of those you come back and forth too. So yeah. A sucker stick. Yeah, that would work. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this technique, but isn't it fun? And I just love the results that we got, both of them. This one, you know, you can keep the shape of the heart a little sharper. This one, because it's a bigger circle, it's a little softer and more diffuse looking, but either one is really cute. So give these a try. This is actually something you can easily turn into a card, whatever, a frameable, anything you'd like. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's come back to our texture. So that was kind of our little break while we allowed some of our texture items to dry. I'm going to pull back. Oh, that one's not dry yet, so hold on. We're going to do our heart because this is dry. And so let's put another layer on that. As a reminder, we were painting in with our mineral violet and a pretty watery mix of it. I've got two areas. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do another curve, but we're not going to follow the same curve. We want it to be different. So we're going to have the curve go a little different way. Okay, so there you can see that. And then we'll fill in the bottom. Now, if you want more layers, you can do your curve tighter to the first one we did. But I think this will look good. So we'll fill the whole thing in again and allow it to dry. You want the same concentration the whole way, so you don't want it to get like super splotchy, like it's lighter up top and darker at the bottom. You want it to be all the same for each layer, roughly. It's never going to be completely perfect, but okay. So now we're getting some kind of fun waves in there. Love the look of that. We'll set that aside again to dry. Then let's see. Let me check in on some of our other things that are drying. My salt is still drying, so let's see how that's going. For these textures with the plastic especially, it helps so much if they are completely dry before you do anything with them. So we're going to help this along just a little. I might have moved this, so we'll see how that kind of is going. Now, I know I'm like trying to heat over plastic. What I'm trying to do is kind of just scooch some heat under here. Oh, it's definitely affecting the plastic. That's funny. Okay, never mind. Okay, well, we're just going to go for it. Again, this may not be completely dry, but let's take a look at what we've got. Oh, it's not half bad. So look at that fun texture. So that's our bubble wrap. Now you can reuse the bubble wrap, but I would definitely want to wash it off, you know, so you don't transfer the paint. Or you can just put clear water and then put the paint that's on there, you know, in it and see what happens there. So all kinds of possibilities. All right, I doubt this one is going to be completely dry, but you never know. Let's see what we get. Oh, it's pretty good. Look at that. Very fun. So same thing. I know like different types of produce bags might have a little different mesh. Maybe this one is kind of rectangular, so maybe there's some square ones out there. So that's kind of a fun one. Ooh, there we go. This one is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to be careful of that. This is the original ones we did. This salt seems like it's pretty dry, so we're going to scrape this off. If you have something to scrape it off, like the edge of a ruler, that often works really nicely. I like to personally scrape it into like the garbage, but you can kind of do whatever you want. You just don't want to scrape it into paint because that's never good. Okay, so there we go. It left pretty decent texture, so that's not bad. I'm happy with that. Okay, let's give a couple other textures a try here. I'm going to, so I flipped my book upside down, so I'm going to put the tape at the top in this case, because that will be the bottom when we flip this around again. But it's just easier to do this side of my book. And I'm going to bring my camera up just a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. If you use the heat gun on a salt image, will it work or ruin it? That's a good question. I have not done the experiment to tell you the answer to that, so I would say give it a try. My gut is going to tell me that it probably is going to force it to dry in a way that will make it absorb too quickly and thus not give you the full impact of what the texture could be, but I don't know because I have not tried it. So yeah, you can definitely give it a try and see what happens. So many of these experiments are definitely situations where it's just fun to try and see what can happen. Because you just never know. It could be magical. You don't know. Okay. So I'm putting some peacock down, peacock green once again, and then we are going to take and add to this some rubbing alcohol. Now, rubbing alcohol, I've got some 91% here. You can try different amounts. Ooh, I could try my Q-tip with this. Look at that. This can be a little bit unpredictable because you never quite know what's going to happen. And it also depends on the color you use a little bit and how wet it is as you're applying it. But this is definitely a fun background that is created. And like, I don't know why that center is darker. Just it is what it is. But oh my goodness, that's fun, isn't it? I don't believe the concentration of the alcohol is a huge factor. So if you have like 70%, that will probably work too. I just happen to have 91 closer. I actually have 70 as well, but you can give either of those a try, and that is very, very fun. Oh, in your packet, you have two textures that I've shared with you. This one is called Punchella. And what this is the basically the negative from making from like a factory making sequins. So there is somewhere in this world, there's a whole lot of green sequins somewhere. We have the leftovers of it. And so we can take and use this to create some texture. I also gave you a type of shelf liner that I picked up, and I don't know where. So I got this shelf liner someplace, but you can also try other types of shelf liner, such as this kind of grippy drawer liner stuff. I just got this at like Walmart just the other day. You can see I haven't even opened it up yet, but this is another type. I figured this was the type you probably would more likely have in your home. I'm trying to remember where I got this. I think I might have actually got it at Costco, to be honest. So this is a little bit more plasticky, but I liked the dots. I thought that was kind of cool. This is a little bit more like blobs. So both of these, all of these will work in much the same way. So let's give these a try. Let's take a different color this time. And I'm using my Naphthol red, which my brush is a little dirty, so it's looking kind of funky, but that's okay, we'll get there. And then of course, once I peel the tape on all of these, I'm going to label what every single thing is that I used so that I have a record of it in my sketchbook. So I love having a record of these different kinds of textures. Another thing I've tried, so like literally look in your pantries and places to see where you might find different things for texture. Okay, so like the plastic wrap, I'm gonna just set this on top of here. And there's a flat side and a bumpy side. So I'm putting the bumpy side down, and then we're gonna put our handy kosher salt over the top of this. And we're gonna let that dry for a while because it will take some time. And then while we're doing that, I can carefully turn my page around and work on another page of textures. And again, I love doing this in my sketchbook because now I've got a record of all these different ideas for texture ready for me whenever. Okay, we'll just do another couple things. Somebody said Wink of Stella, and that's actually a great one. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Okay, another texture you might have, we actually dug this out. This is, I think it's called mud tape. It is like you use it for what is it called? Sheetrock. So if you are putting up sheetrock, and this is like you put this on the seam of the sheetrock and then you put the mud over it. I think that's what this is called. I forgot to ask my husband if that's the right name of it for it. I got this years ago for stamping. And so like you could brayer over this. By the way, almost all of these things can be done with like brayering ink on paper as well. I love using this with watercolors because it's just so fun. But a lot of these apply to stamping as well. Okay, let's take some vermilion, and just go over this. So you it's got some sticky to it, so you definitely want to kind of go over that. And we'll see what happens. I'm just going to do this smaller area here versus putting 2 strips on. And what I love about this is it's sticky, so I don't have to like push on it with anything to make it remain in contact with the paper. Okay, so we'll let that dry, and then once it's completely dry, we'll remove the tape. This is now dry, so that's great. Can pull this off and reuse it. Because when you're doing stuff like this, you go through kind of a lot of tape. Okay, so I can put this on my next sheet. Whenever I do reuse tape, I like to flip it. So for instance, this is the bottom is now on the top of the tape so that the paint that's on there doesn't contaminate. It's not as easy to do that when you're just putting this piece down the middle, but it will work. And the tape, by the way, it doesn't always dry as quickly as the paper, so just keep that in mind. Let's see, one more. Ooh, that's ugly. It's like purpley. I think we might need some clean water at this point. But let's put this on. We're going to get our magenta rose. Ooh, nice rich color on here. Love that. And then I am going to put some Punchella on here. Okay, and this one is a little trickier just because it's so thin, but I want Well, it's kind of sticking to the paper, so that's nice. I want it, you know, to have contact, but I'm afraid if I put anything on it, that would affect the look. So we'll see. I'm gonna carefully move this over and we'll see how well this does. Let everything dry. Okay. All right, that is safely behind us. Let me look at my notes. What do I have left to do? Oh, okay. So while we're waiting for some things to dry, we need to put another layer on here. This feels pretty good and dry, which is great. Bring back in our mineral violet. I think I need to mix up a little bit more. So there we go. Okay, we're going to add another kind of wave to this and let it dry. So you can see how it's really helpful to have lots of different things going all at once so that while things are drying, you can be working on other things so that you're not just perpetually waiting. Get a lot more done when you do it that way. Isn't that looking cool? I really like the look of that. All right. Drywall tape. Yes. Okay. All right. I wanted to take a minute and talk a little bit about something that I have available to you. If you have been enjoying Watercolor Week, which I hope you have, or not Watercolor Week, fall in love with watercolor. It's just been the most fun to have this event with you. And something that I have going on outside of this is called Paint with Dina. Except I can't find my little sheet for it, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Paint with Dina. And there's two versions of Paint with Dina. There is Stencil Club and just Paint with Dina. So Paint with Dina is $7 a month. You get at least one, but often more than one, video tutorial on a very wide-ranging number of topics, techniques, all kinds of things. For example, we did in, I think it was in November, we did a really cool skill builder class where we learned how to paint pine boughs. And then we turned that into a wreath, which we turned into a frameable thing. I would show it to you, except I gave it to my mom, which kind of killed me because I really wanted to keep it. So I thought that was very generous of me. I really had a hard time letting that one go. I've painted another one of those, and I haven't quite finished it, so I'll have to show it to you guys at some point. But the lesson is in Paint with Dina. Anyway, Paint with Dina has two options. Like I said, there's just Paint with Dina, or you can do Stencil Club, and Stencil Club includes Paint with Dina, all for one low price. And Stencil Club, I'm going to show you what Stencil Club is. Each month you get a stencil sent to you, to your home. I'm going to show you my favorite one. So we've been doing Stencil Club for just over a year now. And my very, very favorite stencil. Does anybody who's in Stencil Club know what my favorite stencil is? I've actually mentioned it before, but I'm just curious if you know which one it is. So let me know in the comments. But Stencil Club, I send you a new stencil each month, and then I do at least one video, but I don't think I've even ever not had more than one video, showing you different ways to use your stencil. Okay. Ooh, Mary guessed Cubert. That is not actually my favorite stencil, but that's a good guess. And by the way, there's a couple that are on the tops of my list, and they might surprise you, but my very favorite one was this one, which I called Petals. And it is actually the inspiration for the second stencil you got in your in your box of supplies. So this one is like a fatter. In fact, we even called it Fat Petals. This is a fatter version of this one. Okay, I will show you that in a second. Oh my gosh, you guys are so sweet, your comments. So let me show you some of the stencils in Stencil Club. These are actually not Stencil Club. This is the first one we did. So this was a stencil, and you can see I did it in two slightly different ways. But this book is all of the stencils that I have. Some of them are from Stencil Club and some of them are in my stencil store. If it's in my stencil store, it's never going to show up in Stencil Club. So if you like have purchased a few stencils, don't worry, you won't ever get repeats. This one is not in Stencil Club, but it is in my store called Hexagons. It's just a fun one. Here is a Stencil Club one. I believe my husband named this one Dragon Scale. I thought of it as more like mermaid scale, but he liked dragon. But you can see we do different things with it. And so I show you a lot of these different ones. Petal was like the second one, I think, second or third. This was another favorite stencil of mine. It was a square, 16 squares, or maybe I called it large squares. I don't know. It's all in there. This is Cubert. That's the one Mary mentioned earlier as one of my favorites. I do like that one, but that is actually not my favorite. Here's that Petals again, or actually for the first time. So I did this one, and then this one is my favorite. So I did the petals, and then I put gold in between. I thought that was pretty cool. I also have a green version of this that's really gorgeous someplace. Here is, I have an Easter egg stencil in my stencil store. So that's kind of a fun one. A couple of you have ordered that recently. This one is actually a guest request. Somebody had asked me to do a circle in a square type pattern, so we did that. This is the same stencil, just done in some different ways. This is a stencil. This is probably my next favorite stencil. Oh, it's like picking your favorite kid. Whew, it's hard to do. I really like this one a lot. This is just a line one, and then you can paint different patterns, but we had a lot of fun with that one as well. This one is actually from January. This is called Big Hexagons. And the stencil, let's see, do I have it in my stash? I do. We designed the stencil to have some different little patterns that were included in it. So all kinds of fun things. These are all made and designed by my husband and myself. And so I encourage you to join that. It's $20 a month, but it also includes Paint with Dina. And when you join, you get a little stencil in your first packet that is just like this small one. And so these are some cards I've made with that small stencil. So, and these, by the way, are on the Stencil Club website. So you can see all the videos for all these previous ones. Now, if you're in Stencil Club, you can purchase old stencils. Like, you know, if you haven't been a member from the beginning, you can also get buy 3 stencils, get 1 free in my just stencil store. So that's kind of fun. Like I said, the stencils that are in the stencil store are never going to be part of Stencil Club, so don't worry. Anyway, we have a good time. I usually also have some exclusive stencils that I do for my different events. So for instance, if you come to a retreat, you get typically some exclusive stencils, just like this one. So this is a stencil that is part of this event that came in your box along with this heart. These are not actually available for purchase anywhere else. They are exclusive to this event. So if you got the box of supplies, you've got these 2 stencils. You did, however, get 1 stencil that I am going to put in my store. This was a bonus stencil. And it's the color wheel that we worked with a couple nights ago. This one will show up in my stencil store. It's not actually in there right now, but it will be there shortly. It's that 3-piece stencil, but these two will never show up in my store anywhere. So they are exclusive to this event. So one more shameless plug. If you haven't gotten a box of supplies and would like one, all 3 of these come in your box, so you can get those. Okay, I think that is everything that I have for tonight, except for we got to put one more layer on this heart. She's still wet, so we're gonna try and dry off this a little bit so we can put another layer on here. And then this is actually your card number 5, I think. Yeah. So you can turn this into a card. I will show you what it looks like tomorrow in tomorrow's video. And just a reminder, we will be off on Saturday. I had to reschedule our final day so that I got the dates wrong. I thought my Nashville trip was next weekend, but it's this weekend, of course. So I can watch my son hopefully break 4 minutes in the mile. And even if he doesn't make it, I am super proud of how hard he's been working. He's kind of a beast when it comes to running. It's crazy, you guys. So anyway, I don't know how he does it. My husband and I keep saying, where does he get this from? Because my husband and I are not runners. I was a swimmer and I tried doing track for a while when I was in high school, but let's just say it didn't work out great. Okay, so we're going to put one more layer on here, and you can do as many of these as you want. And then we will turn this into a card. So it's just a fun exercise in glazing. And then of course I will do the big reveal on all of our different textures, including writing down what each of them were in my sketchbook, because we didn't really do that as we went. And then I encourage you to look around your house and see what types of things you might find that could be textures in your watercoloring. I'm sure there's things I haven't thought of. I've been racking my brain trying to come up with stuff. You can also, I meant to do this. You can also like scrunch up saran wrap and just like scrunch it up, place it down on the paper, let it dry, and see what it looks like. It's actually pretty cool. That was one thing we did not do tonight because I forgot to bring my saran wrap down. Not gonna lie, that's the reason. Let's see. Otherwise, I think we did everything else that was on my list. Yes, everything. I had seven or 8 different things that we did tonight, so that's pretty fun. And look at this heart. Isn't that pretty? Oh. Can I just say, yay us, we did a good job. Okay, tomorrow we're going to do that stencil that I loved so much, this one. We're going to paint that tomorrow night. And I can't remember what else we have tomorrow, but it's going to be good. And then we're going to wrap things up on Sunday afternoon. Just a reminder, watch my social media. And of course, if you're registered, you'll get an email with the link and all the details. A final reminder that all of these videos are available through Wednesday the 18th. After that, they are no longer public. And if you would like to continue to have access, you need to do one of 3 things. Purchase the PDF, be a member of Paint with Dina or Stencil Club, or have purchased the box of supplies. All 3 of those will give you the PDF, and the PDF is going to have just an insane amount of stuff in it. It will have photos of every single thing we've done, pages in my sketchbook, all the things. It will also include links to all the videos that you can view as many times as you'd like. It will have a list of supplies that I like using. It will have some bonus videos. I've got a couple so far. And then it will also include something I'm very excited about, which is the 30-day painting challenge. And that is designed, it's not high stakes, it's not high pressure. It's just a way to help you establish a painting habit in your life with as little as 3 to 5 minutes a day. We'll talk more about that on Sunday when we do our final live, but I just wanted to throw that out there. So thank you guys so much for being here. Again, links to all the things I've been talking about are in the description of this video. If you are watching the replay or live, please give me a thumbs up. It just helps me so much when you do that. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you haven't, make sure to subscribe to my channel. That, again, those two things really do help. They're something you can do for free that really helped me in my business, and I would be so grateful. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of your comments on here. That's so awesome. Don't forget to share what you've been painting this week in the Facebook group, because it's been so fun to see your different takes on the things that we've been doing all week long. And I think you've been inspiring one another to continue to paint and try different things. It's been a lot of fun to see what you've been sharing. So thanks for that. And we will see you all soon. Bye, guys.